What's going on, Master Connectors? We are live and on here and ready to roll. Let's go. He challenged me. He said, you should meet 2 or 3 people every day.
We're talking about how to level up on LinkedIn and engagement, being the go-giver, the idea that being open to opportunity.
We all deal with challenges, but how do you overcome that?
Master Connector with Steve Spiro and Cameron Toth is live on air.
All right. Do it. Technical challenges here. Here we go. All right. Okay. Now we got it. There we go. What's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. I am flying solo, although I have a guest that I can't wait to introduce you on. Cameron is traveling, so he might pop in, he may not, but you're stuck with me, and it's going to be a blast. We're going to have a great time today, and just excited to be on. So if you're on here, welcome. We appreciate having you. We love our audience, and thank you for showing up. It's going to be an incredible show. Make sure you're in the comments. Tell us where you're tuning in from. We love hearing from where everyone's from, and unfortunately, I'm going to try to do multitask. The more I do this when Cameron can't, the more I have an appreciation for how much he does. But yeah, so go get in the comments, connect with each other. Tell us where you're tuning in from. I'm tuning in from Stamford, Connecticut. We're gonna hear where Dale is in the world in today because he's traveling. It's gonna be it's gonna be great to hear from him. So, but I want to dig into this, right? So, I'm not sure how much of you guys know of my professional history, but after having an incredible advertising industry, career in the advertising industry, and the economy tanked. I got out of advertising and I got into copier sales, right? And what a grind. I always say, listen, if you could do that, you could do anything, man. It was a grind and a half. And I didn't have a lot of help or guidance or mentorship. It would have been great if I had come across someone like Dale back in the day. But I was kind of fly by the seat of your pants. I was helping a decent sized company open an office in the Westchester, Fairfield County, Connecticut area, Westchester County, New York. And it was wild. It was crazy. Lots of doors slammed on you. It was crazy. But I don't know about you, but even though I was doing it, I loathe sales. Okay. I really don't like sales. I don't like, let me say it like this, not business development, but hardcore sales. I really don't like it. I've done it. I've become very good at it, and not that I try to do hardcore sales. That's not who I am. But today, in my opinion, truthfully, hardcore sales, it doesn't work. And we're all getting, bombarded by robocalls and spam messages, and I've always been a guy that likes to challenge the status quo. I really have. Maybe it was my learning disability, being dyslexic, and I just had to learn things differently. I just didn't like following the traditional path. So today we're going to shift your mind a little bit, or a lot of it, about sales. So if you're ready for us to introduce our amazing guest, I want you to put in the comments right now. Let's go. Let's see if I can get this right. There we go. I'm getting good with the technology here. So type in "let's go" in the comments because we're LinkedIn participants, right? We're not LinkedIn lurkers here. And so I am going to go ahead and now introduce, don't do it as good as Cameron, but I'm going to do my best here to introduce my man, Dale Dupree. All right, so here we go. And I'm going to put him up on screen. Here he is. All right. Dale Dupree, a.k.a. the Copier Warrior, is the co-founder and leader of the Sales Rebellion. With a sales background since childhood, he now provides audacious sales training and personal development through his firm. Dale aims to create a community of impactful sales professionals who choose to be legendary in their careers. Founded in 2019, the Sales Rebellion brings hope back to the sales profession. The rebellion believes in people over products, community over commission checks, fellowship over negotiation, and experiences over performing a pitch. So please, if you would, welcome to the stage the developed and dynamic Dale Dupree. Welcome to the show, Dale.
Yo, what's up, my friend? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, good stuff. Yeah, that's I know that was your bio, but that was cool. That was fun to actually read it because it's pretty awesome. So, yeah, big part of what we like to talk about on the show. And where in the world are you right now? I know you were telling me a small town. Whereabouts now?
Yeah, I'm in Northwest Arkansas. I'm actually
All right. So anyway, from Arkansas, hashtag Arkansas. Maybe he's at a coffee shop right there. You said you're in a coffee shop. So if you're anywhere near, go see Dale. If you want, you can probably get on the broadcast if you get there quick enough, right? We're live right now, right? We're live and direct. So, and where you're from originally, Dale, if you could tell the community.
Born and raised in Orlando, Florida, but I'm living in East Tennessee, just south of the Knoxville area.
All right. You're all over the place. All over the place. Very cool. All right. So obviously, as we alluded to, right, you have a background in the copier industry. Obviously that's what your focus is on, and being the Copier Warrior. So we want to talk a little bit about that. So community, type in hashtag copiers. And so tell us, if you would, Dale, how did you get into the copier business, and was it your career choice? Kind of give us the backstory a little bit here. I know you were started young, and give us a bit of all that, if you would.
Yeah, toner runs in my blood. I actually heard somebody say recently that toner was in my bottle, my baby bottle, which I thought was pretty funny as well, too. But I was born in 1985. My father started a copier firm in 1984, and he had been in copy machine sales for just about a decade at that point. So I came into copiers through my father, who started in this industry. He loved it more than most things. Definitely not his family and his wife for sure, but he loved copier sales. And I always thought it was very strange that my dad liked copier sales so much, right? Like, what's so cool about this? And so growing up in it was fun, right? But I never really understood his love for it until I was able to experience it with him as an adult, because my dad didn't actually look at it as copier sales. He looked at it as an opportunity to grow relationships and better a community around him. And I think the best part, like a lot of people don't really talk about this in our industry, or they just don't talk about it outside of our industry. And so people don't really know, but when you sell copiers, you kind of serve a large demographic of people. And because of that, you meet the attorneys, you meet the real estate agents, you big mortgage brokers, you meet major league sports teams, you meet some of the largest manufacturers in the world. My dad had copy machines at NASA. He won the NASA contract in 1994, 93, somewhere in that time frame. And I still remember as a kid, like delivering those coffee machines. It was so much fun. Those were the times that I suddenly was like, oh, I can kind of see why he likes this, right, to an extent. But I digress. The real identity of copier sales for me, as passed down from my father, is this idea of building community and building relationships with business owners and people that are also trying to provide for their families, build something amazing, not just for themselves, but in the format of a legacy that can be passed down, whether that's to family or to the community as well, too, from the perspective again of like, how do we help people? Not just what do we sell, but how are we helping? How are we serving? How are we fixing problems?
That's awesome. And, it's funny because I remember when I got into the industry, right, it was always like, there was always a heyday that I missed. I remember there was back in the day, a lot of these guys, these old school copier guys would talk about, back in the day, we used to, there was faxes, and then we used to bring faxes into the office and we'd sell them on the spot. And it was, they were talking about how there was incredible margins in profit early on. And then I come in just after the kind of the color revolution in the copier world. And that was a big deal, right? It was tons of money. And so it was always, I always had missed the big boom that what everyone talked about. Right. So, but a fascinating industry nonetheless. And obviously ever evolving, of course, as, now it's more of a network device and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, we don't want to get too heavy on the copier world, but we do want to keep things rolling here. I think it's fascinating. So you kind of alluded to fellowship, and you were talking a little bit about that. So we want to touch on that a little bit. So community, type in hashtag fellowship. Obviously, we're LinkedIn. We're here to participate, right? So I want you to get in the comments, and whether you're a copier person, whether you're a salesperson, you're a business professional, sales is something that's going to be, that's relevant in some way or another for everybody, right? If you're married or you have a relationship, you sold, okay? So this is relevant for everybody here. But anyway, we want to touch on fellowship. So give us a little bit of background on what the context of the question, or what you mean by fellowship over negotiation. I know that was in sort of your bio there. Tell us a little bit more of that, if you could.
Let's just take the word fellowship to start, and let me express and explain what I mean by it when I say the word fellowship. As a core principle and foundation of the organization, the word means something much differently for us. It means getting back to our roots. It means getting back to people first. It means that sales has become extremely transactional. And the thing is that I sold copy machines. So like, I'm not just saying that because, I want to try to push the narrative of what it is that I'm doing. I literally lived in a space where everything was transactional. What's it cost? Is it cheaper? And really, that was all that people were analyzing. In some cases, it felt like you got handed the short end of the stick for the most part in most of my career, because I was definitely trying to build relationships, and it felt very difficult in the early stages. But what I recognized and learned is that really a territory should be looked at as a community. It's made up of people. That when somebody signs off on an agreement to buy from you, like, that's a human, creating that signature, and that speaking to that human on a daily basis through your actions and ultimately through the reputation that you're building. And I'm not saying that you got to call people every day by any means, but the point being that if I build a really good reputation with people, and I build out this community mindset through fellowship, instead of, always trying to be, swapping, this for that and negotiating deals, this whole idea of the golden tongue or the silver tongue. And not to say that those things are dumb or, not relevant to any means, but why not look at things in less of this box where we take sales and we say, oh, it's a business thing and it's just about signing deals and paperwork, and understand that for generations, people did deals by shaking hands and having a glass of wine together and saying, cool, I'll bring my cattle over tomorrow. We'll see you then. And really it was this identity of, hey, you're helping me with something, and I appreciate that. And you've always done very well by me, and it's served my business, which can then serve others. And so, like you said earlier, everybody's in sales. So if it can be more of this identity of life is sales, and that sales is life, that fellowship just becomes a very natural part of what it is that we do, instead of, this idea that sellers get in their head that, oh, I cold call. Like, sure, I mean, like, I get that we need a little bit of a label on some things, right? But it's beyond cold calling. It's like, it's building fellowship with people, giving them an experience, enlightening them about things that you can help them fix, and ultimately figuring out whether or not they're a good fit or you should move on to the next. But even that whole identity of moving on to the next, there's again this transactional feel to that. And while I am all about the no, at the same time, it's, well, if you can't serve this person, then why not fellowship with them even further? Why not reach into their communities and networks and allow them to do the same with you and build something much greater than, again, just a transaction? So I know it's a loaded answer just for the word fellowship, but really it's a mindset perspective. Words matter. They're important and powerful. And if we don't start changing the narrative around specific things, we'll continue to repeat the sins of the past and the legacies that we're building as well.
I love that. That's great. Great perspective. And what's interesting, right? You said a mouthful there, right? So one of the things that strikes me in what you said is you're humanizing the aspect of interaction with people, right? I think a lot of times we dehumanize people, right? And when you get these pitches, you think, it could be a robot or something, and it might be, right? But one of the things that I've done, and I know we're not talking about LinkedIn per se, but one of the things I do when I get the pitch on LinkedIn, I actually respond back in a very, very kind way, saying, hey, I appreciate basically the pitch, but I do business with people I know, like, and trust. And, I'm happy to get on a call to get to know each other on a human level. But if if you all you want to do is pitch me, I'm not interested, right? What I feel like I'm doing there is maybe re-educating people a little bit and helping them understand that, listen, you're not gonna if pitching isn't gonna work for me, at least. Okay. Does it ever work? Sometimes, I guess, if you're really in it, you have a need right now, and it's a needle in the haystack, and it can work, right? It's a very small percentage, but I like to do business with people I know, like, and trust, and I want to get to know you first before I'm ready to buy something, and that's just the way it works. So, but I love this humanizing element, and I definitely appreciate the perspective and what you're doing here, big time. So, all right, here we want to keep rolling here. So we're gonna. I want you to type in #tell me, okay? And this sort of kind of goes along the lines of what we're talking about here, where you talked about people over products, community over commissions, or commission checks, right? And so tell us more about that and your mindset. And you kind of started touching on that a little bit, but dig into that a little bit more, because I love what the message and what you're about with this.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to disrupt. And so ultimately, a lot of the times when people see our messages, and this is a good one, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it, they see, community over commission checks, and they usually put the emphasis on, like, what are you guys saying, that people shouldn't make money in sales? Listen, y'all, this is sales. Salespeople make money. That's what we do. If we didn't want to go out and make commission checks in the first place, we wouldn't be in sales. We would take a desk job, and we would get by with whatever it is the salary is, and live whatever life we wanted to live at that point. The point is that salespeople choose legendary. They choose something much differently. They choose this identity of putting their reputation on the line every day, for the betterment of what it is that we're trying to build as salespeople. Salespeople have the ability to change lives. I've watched that in the course of my career with men and women that were my mentors, and it's especially with my father and his own actions and what he had built before I ever got to his business, which was in business for 29 years. I only worked with him full time for just about 4 of those, right? But in my small amount of time with him, I witnessed things that to this day impact my life, and ultimately have created a differentiation inside of me as a seller as well too. I just see people as more important than commission checks, and money is a byproduct ultimately of servant leadership, and this identity of separating yourself from the transaction in the first place. Now, the best sellers aren't out there trying to get rich quick. The best sellers are out there building something that it almost feels bulletproof to an extent, even though it's not. Just want to throw that out there. Like, anything can happen in sales, but it feels that way because of what we as rebels are building. When we look at it from the perspective of the long term, we've got a rebel that started using our techniques back in 2020. It's 2023 now, and over the course of the last 12 months, he's broken every record in his company. He's made more money than he ever thought he could make. And I'm not talking about $100,000. I'm talking about high 6 figures. He's pressing that million. And this is the interesting part, right? Is that most people have never seen anything like this when someone does it. Because in most sales organizations, they don't want you thinking outside the box. They don't want you doing stuff that they haven't given you as an activity or a metric or a KPI. So when you start thinking past that and you start thinking more about, well, how do I treat my community? How do I give people an experience? How do I become unforgettable, not just memorable, right? How do I take the next step and become somebody that, good or bad, people can't forget? And because of that emotional, that EQ, that intelligence that we preach so much of the rebellion, it is important to understand that it is about the people. Without somebody taking that pen or that electric signature or electronic signature and pressing, click on their mouse, you have no sales. So dependence on your community is important. And that means that we have to go out and build that reputation and serve from the heart. As if we're not doing those things, people will see past you. You will become scum, and it will be the same old story that's been told for so long in sales and the sales walk inside of communities. It's like the guy that sold all the band equipment and then, never delivered it to the high school and just pieced out and went over to the next city a few hundred miles away before anybody could find it.
It's crazy. Well, that reminds me, and, again, a lot of great stuff there. Hopefully, community, you're definitely getting some great nuggets here. And again, if there's anybody that have questions, please put it in the chat. There's a couple, and we obviously my co-host Cameron's in the house virtually. I know he's got a family trip he's on, so appreciate you, Cameron, here. And again, Yolanda, thank you for joining us, being a loyal master connector here, part of our community. She's on every week, and we appreciate you big time. So here's okay. So Cameron's asking, Dale, how do I treat my community? It's a very, very broad question, but since he's my co-host, and knowing him, he would just break into the conversation. That's his style. Mine is a little more polite. He's just like break in and start asking a question. So we'll let you answer that question the best you can.
Sure. I don't know, Cameron. How do you treat them, bro? But I'll tell you how I would recommend you treat a community, just like you would your family. And look, there is a separation. I want to just point this out, that you can't love another person the same way that you love your wife, your mom, your one of your kids, but you can absolutely still exude that love no matter what. So this whole identity of how I treat people is a reflection of who you are. So if I treat my wife, as an example, better than anybody else, then ultimately I also have to say to myself that it doesn't mean people are lesser than me or lesser than her. I want to treat them on that same level. Now, I'm not going to do like really cool stuff like I do for my wife for just anybody, but that's that level ultimately of excellence that we're looking to exude with people, is so that when something happens to somebody, as an example, if I were to do something like make a cold call, which I'm doing today, I would drop off this little coffee stained letter, as we call it. This is an envelope. It's got a letter inside of it. And inside the letter, it tells the person that's receiving it, hey, listen, you're probably wondering like what break room this thing crawled out of. And the point is that, the sales and marketing that comes across your desk, boring, it sucks. You probably throw it away. But instead, I made this one into a coffee coaster so you can repurpose it, save the environment. And the whole gist of it is to give a little bit of a laugh, to help somebody to feel a little bit loose, and ultimately understand where you're coming from and the way that you're approaching this, that and it's just like you said earlier, Steve, everybody hates sales. And nobody wants to admit it that's in sales, which I think is a problem. Because the more that we tackle this identity of the fact of the matter that if I run a small business, I get like 70 plus cold calls a day to some extent, right? Solicitations, it's really what they are. Emails, phone calls, drop-ins, stuff in the mail, right? So, but if this is what I'm dropping on, as opposed to a business card, a brochure, a white paper, something that's assumptive, as if, somebody cares what's in your catalog. Nobody cares unless the timing is so freaking perfect. And let me tell you about timing, y'all. You have zero control over it. So patience is more important than saying, well, maybe today will be the day. Right. And this identity of perseverance through that patience as well, too, because sometimes that's really difficult for people. Like to say, yeah, I went back to that same place that I dropped that first letter off and dropped the second one a couple of weeks later because I didn't hear back. And 6 months later saying like, yes, I'm still working on getting in front of that account instead of just giving up in the first place. So we should treat our communities with excellence, and we should work hard in a way that also exudes emotional intelligence, which allows us to ultimately work smart.
Yeah, again, great nuggets here. I want to touch on one thing that it kind of reminds me of. So one of the things there's a couple of things. One thing that when I'm out there in the business development world, I want to make sure that I'm understanding the needs of that person, right? And really just asking enough questions and listening enough, not trying to push my will on somebody, but listening for that, right? And to a degree, what I think you're talking about, a lot of what you're talking about is breaking through the clutter to get to that point, right? So sometimes it's that initial of getting in, but once you can get in, then you got to make sure that you're on your game so you can really, and when I say game, I don't mean it being manipulated, but really listen, really try to, have the person, talk and open up if you can. So that's one thing I believe that helps a lot. When you find out what somebody wants, they'll do whatever they need to do to get it, right? And if that means maybe buying your service or products or whatever. The other piece of it that I feel like is missing in the sales industry, especially in the copy world, it's very lease driven, as you know. It's every 2, 3, 4 years you potentially have a turnover, and what happens a lot of times, and I've seen it in the industry, is the and you mentioned the guy, some of the gym equipment to the school, and he's gone. Sometimes not always that, but sometimes people sell something and then you never hear from them. It gets delivered, you never hear from them again. Until like 4 years after, just before the lease is up again. Then you hear from them again. And what I've always tried to do is continue that relationship, continue to add value, whatever it happens to be, whether it be the phrase I've heard for years is quarterly business reviews. Going over whatever we could do to kind of help them. So those are just some things that I've seen over the years in another way to kind of make people add value and not just be that sort of transactional salesperson, but more of a strategic salesperson, so that you can, a business professional, a business development rep, or whatever you want to call that person. Rebel, right? Is what you guys use in your world, right? But yeah, so that's my perspective. But I do want to touch on, I have it up here. Cameron has a question. How do I provide an experience? So again, very generic. I'm not sure what he's referring to, but maybe you could address that, and then any other thoughts you have in terms of what I was saying.
Yeah, when it comes to the experience, I like the identity of the non-traditional. So, things like quarterly business reviews or checking in on people is a very standard approach, and there's nothing wrong with it by any stretch of the mind. But I like the identity of being able to go a little bit more above and beyond for folks and helping them to understand that like what we do is extremely different, no matter who you are or what your background is or where you come from. Well, the experience I want to give you is one that, even if there's some familiarity attached to it, or it's something that you have an expectation of for, like, let's just say people in your life that are closer to you, I'm a stranger. So when I do something for you, it's going to be radical in nature. And let's just take prospecting as an example. One of our favorite things is the unwritten story. It's a Rebel book concept. We write basically a title that has something to do with your business, the growth of your business, the things that you want to fix. And it ties back into what we provide ultimately, but we make it all about you. And really at the bottom of it, it's, by Steve Spiro. That's who the author is. And you get this in the mail and it's like, what is this? It's a keepsake, right? It's this identity of something that people wouldn't normally get. Stu Heineck, one of my silent mentors, turned very good friends over the last couple of years, which is awesome to say, by the way. He sends all these awesome big boards, as he likes to call them. He actually sent one to me. He's an ex-Wall Street Journal cartoonist, and he'll do a cartoon of you, speaking to someone doing something that's familiar to you or that you know very well, and he'll put a caption in it that makes you laugh and a note on it on a big, giant board that you can, stick in your house in a frame or, keep in the office, whatever the case. And it's a keepsake. People hang on to those things, even these letters. My whole career, I walked in behind my cold calls and behind, let's just say, like you were talking about, 5 years left on the lease. I'm 3 years into the first time I met this person. I'm providing experiences like this. And I'm walking and seeing my stuff sitting on their desk, seeing the experiences that I've given to them, paying it forward first and foremost, because what we want to do is instill this identity for people of, like, this isn't just us trying to woo you and persuade you. This is us influencing you to say, you got to be like this too inside of our community. I think that my favorite experience was when I got a food truck for a big organization that I had copy machines at. And I actually turned this into a cold call later on in my life, where I did it a dozen times. But I just bought a food truck for a place that I had served. It had been about a year or so since I put my machines in, and I paid, the food truck a set amount of money and went inside and said, hey, there's a food truck out here for all the employees up to this much money. So tell them to hurry up and get out there and get a sandwich on me. I love you guys. I appreciate what you do. And I look forward to seeing you another time. And just left, and because I don't need the spotlight either. Ultimately, like, we believe that every single rebel out there should choose legendary in their personal, their professional, and their private lives. And ultimately, that last one is important because people don't talk about it. You shouldn't be seeking some kind of reward or some kind of, oh, Dale, you're so great. I don't need confirmation of those things, and you shouldn't either. What you should be seeking is to change the existence of somebody through something that you've done. And literally, we can do that on a daily basis. I don't care what anybody says. I'll fight them, tooth and nail. I had a guy one time tell me, he said, bro, you're a salesperson. You sell HBO subscriptions. You're not changing the world. I think that's dense. I think it's moronic, and I think it's the past. It's the way that people have thought over the course of the last 30, 40 years that has gotten us away from connection. We have to kill that off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's funny you were mentioning a book, right? And obviously I came out with a book recently, and those who are following some of my posts, they saw that I had a Ramon Ray. So he was one of the contributors to the book, right? I had about 5 or 6 authors, high level people that contribute to the book. And so I wanted to send him a book, and my wife said, you know what, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to make it nice. I knew I wanted to make it nice, but she really did a great. She put like crab paper. She did stencil of his name. She put like a nice ribbon bow. I forget how she, it was a little girly, but it was okay. It wasn't too female, feminine. There was some masculinity to it. And Ramon got it. He put a big video out. He's opening the package. He shouted it out. And so I went the extra mile, thanks to my wife, went the extra mile. And sure enough, it created an incredible buzz around that. So that's an example, obviously not exactly the same thing, but kind of along the ideas. And we are going to talk about creativity, but I just want to do a shameless promotion there of my book. Get your copy today, because I think it'll change your life if you and you want to, look what Dale is talking about is great, but if you want to inspiring you to kickstart your success journey, it's a good way to do it. But anyway, go back to the show here. But I want to touch on a little bit on creativity. And that's another topic that I wanted to get into here. So, and you're kind of touching on that a little bit. So hashtag creativity community. And so can you speak more a little bit about having creativity in your walk? And you kind of touched on it a little bit already, but maybe you could go a little more on that.
Yeah, no worries. People that know the Copier Warrior in my past life know that creativity just runs through my veins, kind of like toner, and that I was in a very bland, generic, and boring industry where everybody wears a suit and a tie and cold calls in a very just statistically, non-consequential way. It's probably the best way to look at it. There's no risk involved. There's no discomfort involved. It's just like, we're just, pick up the phone and dial, or just stop in and ask people for time. And so I started saying, well, there's 21 competitors here that I'm coming up against. And this is the first time I really realized I was when I went to an RFP for a government bid, and there was, 19, 20 other suits in the room, and everybody looks exactly the same. And I thought, how do you know these people apart? How do you buy from a person? How do you build trust and credibility outside of your organization? And how do you tell an organization apart? They all sound the same. There are these weird words, and maybe there's like business machines attached to them, which is kind of like the normal thing that every company's name looks like. I was in a very vanilla place. And so I said, cool, I'm going to wear loud shirts. I'm going to wear weird hats. I'm going to, and I had Copier Warrior gear created. So I had the Copier Warrior shirt. It was me holding a sword, fighting off a broken copy machine. I started creating touch pieces like that as well, too. I dropped off things like 6-foot cardboard cutouts of myself doing just that, pulling a sword from a golden copy machine and saying every morning this guy wakes up believing this is his job. Give me a call sometime. I did crazy stuff, empty donut boxes for people that weren't getting back to me, that with a ransom note inside that said, yo, I ate all these donuts because I haven't heard back and they were getting stale. I did a bunch of stuff, from cold call carolers during Christmas to my prospects, to dropping golf balls from helicopters at big association events. I've probably done everything in the book at this point. There's hundreds and hundreds of different campaigns that I've put together, and it's that contact marketing concept more than anything. But it really is this identity of, again, speaking to the person and just getting away from the mediocrity of the way that sales has been developed and how the world has told you have to sell. We have to start saying no to those things and say, I want to be Dale. I want to be a rebel. I want to create the Copier Warrior. I want to have something that represents who I am, not just what I sell. And the further that we can go into that place, the more creative we ultimately become. Now, I'm also not saying that that creativity is something that has to be this way over the top concept. I'm a unicorn in the creative world. So, and I get that. My dad called me that a long time ago. He said, you're a freak, is basically what he told me. And was and that's a good thing. Keep being a freak. people will listen to you because of it. So creativity is really like what it is that makes you who you are. It's not a gimmick. It is a sign to the person that is experiencing your creativity and saying to themselves, I like this. And also saying to themselves, I deserve interactions like this. I don't have to work with these other people, I don't have to be in this vanilla industry that where I have to buy a copier and buy it from somebody that doesn't make me feel good or doesn't help me feel trust or doesn't give me an experience. And by doing that, it's a simple concept, right? Like it starts in a place where like most sales gurus and thought leaders get mad because they're like, oh no, that's too basic. Like you have to have value and this and that. Bro, no, you have to just simply have a human connection with someone. And from there, yes, there is definitely a few things that need to happen in order to gain that trust, to get that credibility, to move that deal forward. But listen, if I don't like you, why would I ever call you back at the first place? Right. And if I'm not being impacted by you, then what does it do for me?
Absolutely. That's great. Well, listen, we're right at the bottom of the hour, the 30-minute point, but I want to kind of squeeze in one more question if you're good with that. And I want to touch on leadership, right? Huge John Maxwell guy. How do you spell leadership? EXAMPLE example, right? So that's what his take on leadership is. So I'd like you, community, if you can, type in #leader. And I want to ask you this: what is leadership? What is the idea of being a servant leader mean to you, Dale? And kind of maybe take us home a little bit, and because we want to wrap up here, and any other final points you have, if you would, sir.
Sure. Yeah. Servant leaders are detached from the outcome. Servant leaders are people that, as I mentioned earlier, that connect their private life with their personal and professional lives as well, too, and aren't afraid to give to someone something or some cause without recognition. Servant leaders are people that they don't need the spotlight. I don't need a crown on my head. I don't need you to pull me up on stage and honor me. And that was my father, the best example of this concept. In 2016, I lost my dad to cancer. It's one of the worst days of my life. And I decided to give the eulogy also. I was, tagged to do it as the new patriarch of the family, as the oldest son. And I got in the zone that morning. I got to the church, got everything set up. We put a copier in the lobby and all of my dad's tech and all the things that made him so unique on top of it, which was just beautiful. It's a beautiful moment. And I got in the zone down in the front row with my family to the left and right of me and really hadn't looked around at this point. And the pastor called me up to give the eulogy. I walked on stage and Steve, I looked out into one of the most incredible views that I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've been all over the world. I've never seen a view this beautiful, which was a sea of people. Well over 1,000 people in this place, standing, sitting on laps, lined out the back door, still trying to get in just to pay respects to a copier sales guy. My father, the servant leader of for me, like the greatest servant leader of my life. For the next 6 hours, people came up to us and told us stories, and the majority of them, your dad sold me a copier. And we heard things that we had never thought we would ever hear. Not to say that we doubted our dad could do something like that, but it was absolutely incredible. And to me, that's the definition of a servant leader.
That's amazing. And, I know I said this to you last time we spoke, but, my condolences on your dad. And it sounds like he was an incredible man. And, I've also had some amazing men in my life. Brian McAlargy, I want to give honor to him, who was actually I met him through work. We worked together for 3 years, and then he eventually introduced me to the man who was my mentor today. And he went on to be with the Lord at 38 years old of a misdiagnosed brain tumor. And I was at his, I don't know what they called it. It wasn't a eulogy. It was an honoring of him, I guess. Can't think. It wasn't a funeral, but it was just, and there was thousands. It was just incredible. And then another gentleman, Bill Shulman, who was an incredible man in my life as well, passed away also of a brain tumor at a young age in his 50s, left his family behind. But just incredible people. And they were both exactly what you're speaking about, both principle-based servant leaders, just amazing people. And, how they lived their life was just incredible. So sounds like your dad was that. And it sounds like you're honoring his memory by living your life in that same kind of way with your own unique style, I'm sure. Right. Only a way. Yeah. We all are unique and different. Right. But appreciate that. And that this has been amazing. So just if you could, as we close down, we want to obviously end on a positive note. The positive note is, hey, we're here to make a difference. We're here to be the light. We're here to uplift and inspire and encourage and be a difference maker here. And the incredible people in our life, we're honoring them by paying their message forward, right? What you're doing with your dad, for your dad. And I'm doing that for some of the people that have been in my life who are no longer here and people that are in my life today. Because I believe mentorship is truly the legacy you leave behind and so forth. So, but yeah, give everybody a little bit of maybe any final thoughts and then how the best way they could reach you, please.
Yeah, best way to reach me is just right here on LinkedIn. If that's where you're watching, linkedin.com/IN/Copier Warrior, or just search my name. I'm the only Dale Dupree that looks like a freak in his profile picture. You can find my company, The Sales Rebellion, at www.thesalesrebellion.com, at Sales Rebellion on our social media channels. And you can find me as well, too, at Dale Rebel Leader on most social channels, from TikTok to Instagram to Facebook. Love to connect. Love to see folks join our free private Slack community, become rebels, get more creative with their sales process, give people more experiences, become the rebel they were called to be, and ultimately change the game for our industry.
Love that. That's awesome. Appreciate that. I think I might have done this right. Again, I'm trying to, there we go. I posted in the comments your LinkedIn profile. Obviously I have that there. Fantastic. Great stuff. We appreciate you, Dale, and keep up the amazing work you're doing. So as we wind down here, I want to remind everybody, we are here, same bat time, same bat channel, Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern. The episode we're going to have, which is episode 123. It's amazing how time has flown, but this is going to be from zero to hero, and it's the topic, and that's the topic title. And Rob Matskin is going to be our I'll post that in the event page itself as well. But he's going to be our guest next week. So and don't forget to check out the book. I'll put that in the comments too. My book here, which let's see. So there's next week's comments. Again, I'm playing with technology here, so bear with me here, but thank you for your grace on that. But that's the book now. So go check out the book, The Tao of the Master Connector, and there's your Amazon link there. But we appreciate you, Dale, and we're gonna end like we always do. So if you can participate with us, that'd be great. We're gonna do what's called Countdown to Crush It. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our hands up. We're going to count from 5 to 1. And Yolanda's a pro at this. We're going to do it. The ones that are watching on the show, you do it in the comments as well. And then we're going to shout out Crush It, and we're going to punch the screen. But again, I want to remind everybody, we're here. Make sure you share this out. If you're watching this on the replay, #replay, share this to your community, not for our glory, but for the ability to make a difference and really be the light in this world. And I believe that we make a difference one person at a time. So if you share this with one person and it inspires them, then we've done our duty for today. So, but anyway, let's close it out, and looking forward to seeing you guys next week. And so, ready? Let's go. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Crush it! All right, there we go. You got it. You got it right there. Appreciate you. See you guys next week. I'm going to end this with a video. You can hang on in the backstage if you want, and we'll see you next week. Have an amazing day. Crush it.